The moment Richard stepped into the workshop, the air shifted. He didn't just walk in, he stormed, his expensive shoes clicking on the polished floor, eyes scanning the room with a mix of disdain and entitlement. Jasmine Carter wiped her hands on a rag, glancing up as the billionaire CEO approached, his sharp gaze locking onto her. "Is this the mechanic you want working on my Ferrari?" he sneered, voice dripping with contempt. Without waiting for an answer, he laughed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Please, I pay top dollar for this car to be handled by professionals, not amateurs who probably learned fixing engines from YouTube." The mechanics exchanged uneasy looks, some lowering their heads, others pretending to organize tools, but no one spoke up. Mike, the shop manager, stepped forward hesitantly. "She's one of the best, sir. You should hear her diagnosis." Richard waved him off sharply. "I've been coming here for years. I know what professional service looks like. This woman doesn't." He pointed directly at Jasmine. "Not to mention, I'm paying for peace of mind, not for some black girl's theories." The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Jasmine stood tall, her arms crossed, eyes steady and unreadable. She didn't respond, not out loud, but there was a flicker in her gaze, like a secret she carried alone. Richard smirked, turning away with a dismissive wave. "Keep the card on your windshield. Maybe when you learn the difference between mechanics and amateurs, I'll consider it." Jasmine watched him leave, a quiet strength settling over her. The battle hadn't even begun. Jasmine's small garage sat tucked away on a busy Los Angeles street, far from the polished floors and expensive cars of the luxury workshop. It was a place of sweat, grease, and hard work, where people came not for show, but because they trusted her skills. Inside, the scent of oil mixed with the hum of engines and the steady beat of her favorite blues music playing softly from a worn radio. Regular customers filled the cramped space. A delivery driver with a worn-out van, a single mother juggling 3 jobs, and a college student dreaming of becoming an engineer. Jasmine greeted them all with a smile, her hands never stopping as she worked. To the outside world, she was just a mechanic, but here, she was a lifeline. Her mind drifted back to the lessons from her grandfather, who had taught her under the shade of a dusty old garage. "Engines don't care who you are, Jasmine," he used to say. "They don't see color or status. They only respond to your hands and your heart." That lesson stuck with her every day. It was why she worked harder than anyone else, not just to prove her skill, but to honor the man who believed in her when no one else would. Her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Ms. Valdez, a teacher whose old van had been acting up again. "Can you come by around 5?" it read. Jasmine smiled softly and typed back, "I'll be there." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jasmine closed up shop and took a moment to look out over the city lights. The world outside was vast and loud, but here, in this little garage, she found peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Jasmine was ready, not because she had to be, but because she refused to be defined by anyone's limits but her own. The next day, word of the billionaire's mocking laughter echoed beyond the walls of the luxury workshop. Over lunch in a high-rise restaurant, Richard boasted to his business associates about how he humiliated the black woman mechanic who dared to question his Ferrari. "She thought she could fix a $200,000 car. I told her to stick to fixing Toyotas," he chuckled, swirling his wine with a smug grin. His friends laughed along, the conversation filled with quiet agreement. But not everyone was amused. Meanwhile, back at the luxury shop, the Ferrari still refused to start properly. Senior technicians tried everything they could, replacing sensors, recalibrating systems, even consulting with the factory in Italy. Nothing worked. Frustration grew as the car's issues worsened, and the billionaire's temper flared. Calls to insurance companies brought new problems. Coverage was now at risk because of unauthorized repairs, a direct result of the mechanic's earlier involvement. Across social media platforms, a video clip of the billionaire publicly mocking Jasmine went viral. Hashtags like Proud Respect Jasmine and Trouser Black Women Lead began trending, especially in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. People shared their own stories of facing discrimination and demanded accountability. News outlets and influencers picked up the story, shining a light on the injustice. The pressure mounted on Richard, and the world watched as the power dynamics began to shift. But Jasmine stayed focused, refusing to let the noise distract her. For her, this was never about fame. It was about justice, skill, and the truth. One bright morning, a sleek red sports car pulled up outside Jasmine's modest garage. From the passenger door stepped a woman dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, her Italian accent clear as she introduced herself. "I'm Sofia Romano, representing Ferrari's engineering division." Jasmine nodded, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Sofia explained she had heard of Jasmine's unique ability to diagnose complex engine issues simply by listening. "Our team has struggled with a problem in one of our models for months. We'd like your expertise." Inside the garage, Ferrari engineers accompanied Sofia, their skepticism clear as they watched Jasmine examine the engine. She closed her eyes, placing a stethoscope against different parts, tuning in to the subtle changes in sound. A few adjustments later, the engine hummed smoothly, a fix the high-tech machines had failed to find. The engineers exchanged impressed glances. Back at the luxury workshop, news of Jasmine's collaboration with Ferrari spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, Richard's reputation began to crumble. Clients called to cancel contracts, and investors expressed doubt. Corporate statements condemned discrimination and reaffirmed their commitment to inclusion. Mike, the shop manager, reached out to Jasmine, desperation in his voice. "We need your help. Ferrari wants you officially." Jasmine agreed, but only under one condition. She would return as Ferrari's certified consultant, with full authority to make decisions. The stage was set for a confrontation that no one in that shop would soon forget. Panic had begun to take hold of Richard as calls flooded his phone. Contracts he once celebrated were being cancelled one by one. Key partners distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with the controversy surrounding his name. Luxury car brands he had long admired issued statements condemning discrimination and emphasizing their commitment to diversity and inclusion. The pressure was mounting from every direction. Meanwhile, inside the workshop he once ruled with arrogance, whispers of Jasmine's rising influence filled the air. Employees who had once remained silent now openly discussed the changing power dynamics. Desperate Mike, the shop manager, finally reached out to Jasmine. His voice trembled as he explained, "We're losing clients and credibility fast. Ferrari has asked for your help directly. Please, will you come?" Jasmine listened carefully, her mind already made up. "I'll come," she said calmly, "but only as an official Ferrari consultant. I need the authority to do this right." Back in the city, Richard sat alone in his sleek office, watching news reports of the backlash growing stronger. The video of his public humiliation had been shared hundreds of thousands of times, and hashtags calling for justice trended across platforms in the US, UK, and Canada. The once confident billionaire now faced the consequences of his actions. The very empire he built was starting to crumble beneath the weight of his own arrogance and prejudice. The stage was set for Jasmine's return, this time not just as a mechanic, but as a symbol of justice and change. Jasmine arrived at the luxury workshop wearing her clean, crisp Ferrari uniform, the logo proudly displayed on her chest. Cameras flashed as she stepped inside, calm and confident. Richard looked up, his eyes widening in shock. "You?" he stammered, struggling to find words. Sophia Romano stepped forward, her voice clear and authoritative. "Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Carter is Ferrari's official technical consultant for North America. She is here to solve the problem that has eluded us for weeks." The workshop fell silent, all eyes on Jasmine as she approached the Ferrari. She moved with purpose, opening the hood and listening carefully to the engine. Minutes later, with precise adjustments and focused concentration, the engine began to purr smoothly, better than it had before. Richard's face turned pale as he realized the truth of the moment. Cameras captured his silence, the humiliation undeniable. Reporters arrived, asking pointed questions about his earlier remarks and the incident that sparked the viral video. Under growing pressure, Richard was forced to issue a public apology. Ferrari announced his permanent ban from all company events and services. Social media exploded with support for Jasmine. Trending hashtags like #RespectJasmine and #BlackWomenLead, dominating platforms across the US, UK, and Canada. Jasmine turned to Richard one last time, her voice steady and clear. "Respect is earned, not bought. I fix engines, not egos." The applause from the staff was immediate and loud. The moment was a victory not only for Jasmine, but for everyone standing against discrimination and injustice. Richard's world unraveled faster than he could have ever imagined. Once a powerful billionaire, he now found himself isolated, his company's stock plummeting as investors lost faith. Phone calls stopped coming. Board members whispered behind closed doors, questioning his leadership and the damage his arrogance had caused. The luxury brands that once proudly displayed his name on their guest lists now distanced themselves, refusing to associate with a man publicly exposed for his racism and prejudice. Jasmine, meanwhile, was rising higher than ever. Ferrari honored her at a grand ceremony in New York City, celebrating her groundbreaking work that was revolutionizing engine diagnostics worldwide. She accepted the award with quiet grace, dedicating it to those who refused to be defined by others' limitations. Her story became an inspiration across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. She launched a scholarship program supporting young black engineers, determined to open doors she once had to fight to enter. Back in Los Angeles, Jasmine returned to her humble garage, where it all began. The familiar scent of oil and steel welcomed her as she worked on an old Chevy, her hands steady and sure. As night fell, she paused, her thoughts drifting to her grandfather's words, "Engines don't care who you are. Neither should the world." A soft smile crossed her lips. The city lights shimmered outside her window, a quiet reminder that change was possible, and that justice, no matter how delayed, always finds its way.